Imagine being able to vanish, like completely from sight. And I mean not by using some highly classified military cloaking device.
Right, no optical illusions either.
Exactly. What if true invisibility was simply, well, a side effect of thinking the right way?
I mean, it sounds like pure science fiction, honestly. But
Yeah.
the material we are examining today treats this kind of extraordinary ability as a matter of applied physics.
Yeah,
Just, not the physics that you and I were taught in school. It demands a complete overhaul of how we understand reality.
it really does. For you listening today, we are stepping entirely out of our comfortable, tangible world. We are plunging into a highly unusual, just fascinating text.
Very unusual.
It was translated from December 9th, 2006. It is titled Concealment Advanced Cultivation 4.
Right.
Written by an author known as Diaform Buddha, and the translation we're working with was edited by Kinyu.
And we should warn you, this is not a text of gentle philosophical musings or, poetic metaphors.
Not at all.
The author is making direct, literal claims about achieving superhuman abilities. Specifically, the mechanical ability to become invisible.
Right, and through that invisibility, to basically escape any physical boundary.
Exactly.
So our mission for this deep dive is to explore this radically different perspective on human capability. Not as a collection of physical magic tricks, but as a profound, rigorous exercise of the mind. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, to really grasp what the author is proposing, we have to start exactly where they did. And surprisingly, it begins right where so many of our own journeys begin.
With childhood stories.
Yes, with the stories we are told when we're young. The author explicitly points to their earliest understanding of invisibility coming from a story told by their elementary school teacher.
Oh, right, the tale about the magic gourd.
Exactly, the magic gourd.
Which is such a universal starting point. We all have that childhood moment of encountering the impossible in a story. But the author doesn't just leave it in childhood.
No, they don't.
From that seed of wonder, they move on to dissecting classic, monumental pieces of literature. They specifically mention gaining deeper insights into concealment and escape from legendary Eastern works.
Like Journey to the West.
Right, Journey to the West and Investiture of the Gods. And for anyone familiar with those texts, I mean, they are massive epics.
Huge.
They are overflowing with deities, mythical feats, and characters like Sun Wukong, who can perform, 72 earthly transformations.
Yeah, 72. And what's fascinating here is how the author pivots from fiction to a very rigorous, almost mechanical philosophy of the mind.
They really shift gears.
They do. They don't read these texts as entertaining mythology or cultural fairy tales. They read them as an instruction manual hidden in plain sight.
Wow, an instruction manual.
Yeah, they state, quite beautifully actually, that the nature of thinking is truly marvelous, and then they draw a hard, undeniable line in the sand regarding human capability.
And this is where it gets controversial.
Very. The author firmly states that extraordinary abilities absolutely do not come from physical practice. They do not come from holding specific physical postures.
Or breathing exercises.
Right. They come entirely from the practice of thought.
And I really have to push back on that, or at least point out how completely jarring that is to a modern listener's sensibilities.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in the West, we view advanced human achievement as deeply, undeniably physical. Like if you want to be an elite martial artist, you spend decades punching bags,
Carrying muscle fiber.
hardening your shins, exactly. If you want to run a marathon, it is a grueling physiological toll.
Yeah.
Even our mental pursuits, like chess, are often measured in how they exhaust the physical brain. But this text strips the body out of the equation entirely.
It really does. It frames the ultimate power as a workout for the mind.
Right? The ability to literally vanish from sight is completely detached from the physical form. It basically suggests you could sit perfectly still in an armchair
Yeah.
and through pure, targeted cognitive effort, achieve something far beyond what an Olympic athlete could ever dream of.
It forces us to absolutely reevaluate where power actually resides. I mean, if the author is right, our entire civilization is spending all of its time upgrading the hardware.
The physical bodies, the machines.
The tangible infrastructure, yeah. When the true infinite potential lies entirely in the software, in the code of our thinking.
Which brings us to the consequences of actually updating that software. Because if thought truly is the ultimate practice, well, that comes when you master it.
You get a lot more than a party trick.
Exactly. According to the author, you gain an absolutely overwhelming fundamental advantage in how you interact with reality itself.
And they make an incredibly bold claim to back this up. The author states plainly, I have successfully become invisible and escaped.
Just casually dropping that in.
casually dropping it. And because of this achievement, they claim to possess certain secrets. But they are careful to clarify that these are secrets not within the material world.
And because they hold these non-material secrets, the author admits to something else that is genuinely fascinating.
The arrogance thing.
Yes, the arrogance. They admit that to an outsider, they might come across as arrogant. But then they explain their everyday reality, and it is just mind-bending.
It really is.
They say they know what other people are thinking, they know what others are going to do before they do it.
They even know the absolute boundaries and limits of other people's thoughts.
Right. Meanwhile, everyone else in the world is completely blind to the author's mind. Nobody knows what the author is thinking, what they will do, or where their boundaries lie.
It is a striking admission, and it perfectly reveals their core thesis on human potential, which is that a person's ability is solely determined by their thinking.
That's the singular metric.
Exactly, the singular metric that dictates reality. The author states that if someone's thinking is superior, the difference between them and an ordinary person isn't just a matter of degree or intelligence.
It's not just being a little smarter.
No, they describe the difference as being as vast as the sky and the earth. It is an entirely different plane of existence.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you frame it the way the author does, it doesn't actually sound like arrogance at all.
Not at all.
Let's think about it like a high-stakes game of poker. Imagine you are sitting at the table,
Okay.
and you can magically see everyone else's cards. But not only that, you can see their physiological tells.
You know their exact betting strategies.
Yes, and you can literally see the mental boundaries of how far they are willing to bluff. But your cards are completely invisible to everyone else.
Right.
If you play aggressively in that scenario, you aren't acting confident because you have an inflated ego. You are acting confident because you are operating with a massive asymmetry of perception. You are playing a completely different game than the people sitting across from you.
To push your poker analogy a step further, you aren't just reading their cards. You understand the very framework of the game while they just think they are holding pieces of cardboard.
Exactly.
Arrogance implies an unjustified belief in one's own superiority. What the author is describing is simply a justified, objective, mechanical reality.
They're just stating facts.
Yeah, the reality of possessing a vastly superior framework of thought. They are standing on a mountaintop, looking down at people navigating a labyrinth.
While the people in the labyrinth lack the sensory equipment to even perceive that a mountain exists.
Perfectly said.
So naturally, the question for you, the listener, and for me is, well, how do you get out of the labyrinth?
How do you get that asymmetry?
Right. How does one move from our ordinary, everyday, bill-paying perception to this godlike asymmetry? The text doesn't leave us hanging here.
Thankfully.
It provides a very specific hierarchy of consciousness to climb.
Yes, the author visualizes this progression as a ladder of thinking. They provide an exact classification where each rung is higher and far more profound than the one before it.
The author lists 8 rungs. Let me lay them out for you. We all start at the absolute bottom. First, there is material thinking.
Right, everyday stuff.
Second, imaginal thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Third, associative thinking. Fourth, elusive thinking.
Getting more abstract.
Definitely. Fifth, visualized thinking. Sixth, Taiji thinking. Seventh, formless thinking. And finally, the 8th and highest rung, holographic thinking.
It is an incredibly profound progression. Now, while the text itself moves quickly, and it doesn't explicitly dedicate a chapter to granularly defining every single step.
It skims a bit.
It does. But as guides to this material, we can clearly see the underlying logic. It maps a journey that begins entirely in the tangible physical world and moves steadily toward a state of total interconnected abstraction.
I have to stop and ask a pushing question here, though.
Sure.
Because looking at this ladder, how hard is it just to jump off that very first rung?
The material rung.
Right. Think about what you, the listener, worried about today. We spend almost our entire lives hopelessly anchored to material thinking.
We worry about paying physical bills.
We get stressed sitting in physical traffic. We manage physical aches and pains. We adhere to physical constraints like gravity and time.
It's heavy.
The gravity of that first rung is so incredibly heavy, it makes the climb to the 8th rung seem impossibly steep. How do you even begin to detach?
Well, that friction is exactly the point. The material rung is incredibly heavy because we are conditioned from birth to prioritize it. To move up the ladder requires treating abstract concepts as being more real than physical objects. Take the jump to the second and third rungs, imaginal and associative thinking.
Okay.
This is where you begin to hold a concept in your mind without needing the physical object present, and then connecting that concept to universal patterns. You are loosening the grip of the tangible.
Right, and as you move higher into elusive and visualized thinking, you aren't just observing these patterns.
Hmm.
You're mentally manipulating them.
Exactly.
But it's those top 3 rungs where the paradigm truly shifts.
Precisely. Once you reach the sixth rung, Taiji thinking, you are engaging with the fundamental non-dualistic flow of reality.
Yin and yang.
Right. You are understanding the energetic interplay of opposites rather than seeing separate, distinct physical objects. And that naturally leads to the seventh rung, formless thinking.
Where shapes just disappear.
Yeah, where the mind completely abandons the necessity of boundaries, shapes, or physical definitions.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the ultimate peak. The author explicitly states that the key to concealment and escape, the secret to true invisibility, lies entirely in mastering that final 8th rung, holographic thinking.
And the term holographic is the key to everything here.
How so?
Well, in a physical hologram, if you shatter the holographic plate, every tiny fragment still contains the complete image of the whole.
Oh, right.
Holographic thinking, therefore, is the profound realization that your mind is not separate from the universe. The whole is contained within every tiny part.
So your mind contains the universe.
Yes. Your mind doesn't just observe the universe, it contains the entire energetic blueprint of the universe within it.
Okay, so let's say someone actually manages to make that climb. They break free of the material, they ascend through formless reality, and they achieve true holographic thinking.
The big what if.
Right. What actually happens? How does invisibility mechanically work? Because the author doesn't just say, poof, it's magic.
No, they don't.
They provide an explanation based on the literal physics of energy and space.
They do. And it is perhaps the most surprising part of the text. After setting up this incredibly deep philosophical ladder, the author claims that invisibility itself is actually very easy.
Very easy. That's wild.
I know. Once you possess holographic thinking, they say becoming invisible is just a fleeting thought.
A fleeting thought.
The primary mechanic they describe involves a person compressing themselves into a single cell and being able to complete this entire compression in an instant.
Which sounds completely impossible
Yeah.
until they explain the rule of mental physics that governs this space.
Right.
The author states a specific law. In the same limited space, the greater the energy, the more formless it becomes.
And conversely,
Conversely, the smaller the energy, the more tangible it is.
if we connect this to the bigger picture, it changes absolutely everything about how we visualize cloaking or hiding.
Definitely.
The author uses a brilliant example to illustrate this energetic rule. They say a mountain is a mountain.
Sure.
We all know what a mountain looks like. It is massive, it is tangible, it is undeniably there.
Very hard to miss.
Right, but the author proposes if you take the raw energy of that massive mountain and you instantly compress it into a space the size of a matchbox, the mountain becomes invisible.
Let me throw an analogy at this to help ground it,
Yeah.
because it reminds me so much of digital data compression.
Oh, I like that.
Think about a massive, uncompressed 1 terabyte video file. That is our mountain.
It takes up half your hard drive.
Exactly. It takes up a huge amount of space on your desktop. It's bulky. It slows down your machine. You cannot ignore it.
Right.
But if you take that file and you zip it, you compress all of that data, all of that energy, into a tiny hidden folder. That is our matchbox.
A tiny zip file.
Yeah. The data, the raw energy of that video is still 100% intact. Nothing was lost. But its visible footprint has completely vanished from the screen.
To build on your zip file analogy, what the author is suggesting is that you aren't just zipping the file. You are changing the file format so drastically that the material operating system simply cannot render you anymore.
Wow, the operating system can't read the file.
Exactly. The material world still exists, but you are bypassing its detection entirely. And this is where the author introduces a paradox that perfectly illustrates how holographic thinking operates.
The Earth thing.
Yeah. They say you can achieve invisibility by compressing yourself into a single cell. Or they say you can achieve invisibility by doing the exact opposite.
Right.
You can become invisible by absorbing the energy of the entire Earth.
I was genuinely stunned by the scale of that claim when I first read it. I mean, compress into a microscopic cell or absorb a whole planet.
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
Literally. How can 2 completely opposite actions yield the exact same result? Like, how do both lead to invisibility?
Well, it goes back to the concept of the material operating system. Or let's call it the bandwidth of material reality.
Okay, the bandwidth.
The physical everyday world that you and I perceive exists in a very narrow middle bandwidth. If you compress your energy infinitely small into a single cell, you slip below the threshold of material detection.
So you're too dense.
You are too dense, too microscopic for the material world to register.
And if you do the opposite, if you expand your energy infinitely outward to absorb the Earth,
Then you slip above the threshold of material detection.
you're too big to see.
Exactly. You expand so far that you cease to be a distinct object within the environment. You become the background canvas itself.
You become the environment.
Yes. Whether you slip below the bandwidth or expand above it, the result is identical. You are pulled out of the narrow frequency of material reality. You vanish.
That is a massive realization. It's not camouflage. It is simply shifting your energetic density so far out of the normal material frequency that your physical form ceases to exist to anyone stuck on the bottom rung of the ladder.
That's the core of it.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from childhood tales of magic gourds, climbed an 8-rung ladder of consciousness, and learned how to slip out of the material bandwidth by compressing the energy of mountains into matchboxes.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But I have to remind you, the listener, of the author's incredibly casual conclusion to all of this.
Oh, this part is great.
After laying out the profound mechanics of escaping the material world, the author asks rhetorically, is it difficult?
And their answer is just, not really.
Not really. They say the key simply lies in the transformation of thinking. They literally describe this reality-bending practice as a fun game.
A fun game.
They suggest that if you have some free time, it's worth playing around with.
It is a stunningly lighthearted end to an incredibly dense text.
It really is.
But perhaps that casual tone is the ultimate proof of their assertion. I mean, when you truly step off the heavy ladder of material thinking, the impossible loses its weight.
It ceases to be a burden.
Right, it ceases to be a burden and becomes play. Even if we aren't trying to literally turn invisible today in our living rooms, this text issues a powerful challenge.
Absolutely.
It asks us to examine our own mental bandwidth. Are we letting material thinking severely limit our understanding of our own energy?
Like, are we stuck on rung 1?
Yeah. Are we so obsessed with the physical limitations of our hardware that we are ignoring the infinite possibilities of our mental software?
It fundamentally reframes what it means to possess power. It makes you realize that perhaps the greatest limitations we face aren't physical walls.
No, they're not.
They are the boundaries of our own associative thinking. Which leaves us with one final lingering question for you to take with you today.
I love this question.
If mastering holographic thinking allows a human being to instantly compress their entire existence into a single cell, or to casually absorb the raw energy of the entire Earth,
Mr. Fun.
right? And if they can do all of that just to play a fun game in their free time, what other impossible realities are waiting for us, just one fleeting thought away?